Okay, so to create the movement of the boat, we'll actually be using this keyboard event, and we'll be listening for the key down and key up. And I've pasted these switch statements and all of that stuff because it's just a bunch of writing and not much getting done. And we'll go through it right now. So we have the add event listener for the key down and for the key up, and they're calling key down and key up functions. And this navigate frame function will create from scratch right now, because this is the actual function where the whole motion and everything happens. But otherwise, when we press the button down, we run this switch statement to check for which button was pressed. And we're checking for left, right, up, and down in our case. So these are the key codes for the left, right, up, and down. And you can find these key codes in the documentation. And for the up, we are again checking and then acting upon that. And we have these 4 Boolean variables, and initially they are all set to false because none of the keys is pressed, of course. And when we press the left arrow, let's say we equal the left arrow to true. And then we'll have an error frame event, which will check if either of this is true, then move it to the left. So this is a nice little system for moving stuff around the stage, especially in the games, in games like such, where you have to move an object, be it a ship, a spaceship, a plane, or a character left and right. You can move it nicely like that, and you can also add some acceleration and all that, which we won't have over here because we already we need a responsive ship in order to be able to move around and evade all the logs. But anyway, let's create the navigate frame function. And this is EVT, event, void, open and close. And now we'll be checking if either of the buttons is pressed, and then we'll be moving the whole thing around. Also, we have our boat over here. And besides our boat, we also have an area which is for the hit test purposes. Okay, so instead of checking the whole boat, which if we didn't use the pixel version of checking pixel by pixel the collision, which is slower, of course, again, this whole thing would collide even if you would hit test over here. Since we don't want that, and we want only the boat, the actual boat, to be the collision, to create the collision between objects, I just created a shape, placed it over, and then over here we'll actually move it along with the boat. So if we say, and this is the hit object, so if we click on here, you see that it's a hit object. Okay, let's go actions. And since this is a enter frame event, this happens every frame, we can actually say hitObject.x equals boat.x plus 31, so it'll stay exactly where it should be, and hitObject.y equals boat.y plus 4. Okay, so that has nothing to do yet with the navigation of the boat. Now if we want to move our boat to the left, if we have pressed the left button, all we need to do is to check for left arrow if it's pressed. Here we go. Then we need to move it, so boat.x minus equals 1. And let's try that out. So if we run that, okay, we get an error. X is an undefined property. 2 there, okay, that's the problem. So this needs to be true, obviously. And if we run that, and if we press left, we see our boat moving. And we also see our particles moving along with it, which means that the whole thing is working as it should be. The problem now is that it's going too far to the left. So the simple solution we'll be using here is to use a boat.x is greater than minus 80. And let's run that. and now it stops. Okay, and if right arrow equals true, then we'll move our boat to the right, but again, if boat.x is less than 95. So boat.x plus equals 1. So we have our left, and it stops, and we have our right, and maybe it's a bit too slow. So let's make it 2. At least for testing purposes, we'll be able to do it a bit faster. And also, we need the same kind of thing for up and down. So here we go. If up arrow equals true, I will remove that guy. Say if both.y is more than 0, so it's higher than the stage. And over here, we'll also say both dot y minus equals 1 point, or let's make it 2 also. And also what we'll be doing, we'll be moving the container. So if you go into our scene, so this is one level up, we'll also be moving this slightly up and down as we press our buttons up and down. So if we go in and here we go into our boat, besides moving the boat, we'll also need to access this dot parent dot container dot y plus equals 0.3, and we'll copy and paste this whole line and change all of this also to my mask, which is also another thing that we have out here, and the purpose of which is to here we go, it's hidden. The purpose of which is to hide the logs if they actually pass under the tree line over here, just to make it a bit more making sense. Okay, so going back into the boat. So we are moving the boat up if we press up, and we are moving the container down and the mask down at the same time. And also, if we are moving the boat up, we'll also say boat play, because we have a sequence inside of here. So if I double click, which is kind of a cool rowing effect, and it has stop on the first frame, and as long as we press up and we are moving forward, the rows will actually keep going forward. You could also make them go backward by using the enter frame event on back. You can do that if you want, but here we go. We'll be okay with moving them forward. Okay, so let's try it out. Okay, left and right. Up is not working, however. Let's check it out. Let's remove this. If up arrow equals true, let's see, we have the switch, right? So up arrow equals true, that's okay. Run it again. Okay, now it's working. Why was it not before? Anyway, we'll leave that out for now. Figure it in a second. Come back to it later. Okay, so let's also do the down now. Here we go. If down arrow equals true, so if down arrow equals true. We'll change that to plus, these guys to minus, and we'll use this time. Okay, let's actually try it out and remove the boat play. Up, right, left, down. And also you'll notice that the background is panning slightly, right? So as we're moving up, the whole background is moving down, and as we're moving down, the whole background is moving slightly up to create this kind of a panning effect through our object. Okay, this looks cool. Let's just trace the Y of our boat. So we see actually what values we get. So that's 0. And as we get up, we're actually going to minus 200, 300, 400, and 10. Okay, so we'll say if boat.y is less than 0, do that. And for up arrow, set 410. So if boat.y is more than minus 410, here we go. And let's run it. And it goes up, but it stops over here. And when we get to the top, it should also stop and prevent from going further, which also makes sense. Yep. Okay. Let's check it out again. So we have our key up and down event listeners, our keyboard event, which are calling the key down and key up functions, which are checking through our switch statements whether we have pressed one of the buttons that we specified. So in our case, up, down, left, and right. If we pressed one of those, we are equaling the appropriate boolean to true. If we release it, we are equaling the appropriate, setting the appropriate boolean to false. And the enter frame event of here is constantly listening for these changes, and whether we are pressing left or right, it's actually adjusting the position of our boat each frame. So we get this behavior. You could also tilt it left and right slightly, but again, because of the nature of the game, because these logs actually get quite, over time we are setting them to be more and more. It's important that our boat kind of stays still for playability, so we can get through narrow gaps between those logs and stuff like that. But anyway, you can play with that as much as you want. We will go on by creating a class for one of our objects, either the log or the trash, and then we'll just copy and paste that and change a couple of properties to make it apply to the other one as well.